So, in 293 AD, a radical reform was introduced in an attempt to save the empire from disaster. It was divided into 4 parts, with 4 capitals and a different emperor based in each, all working together to keep Rome strong. The system worked for a while, but it had one major flaw.
With 4 times as many emperors, there was 4 times the scope for rivalry, 4 times as many succession disputes. And by 312 AD, the system had completely broken down. The empire was racked once again by civil war.
But one man would restore order to this disintegrating empire and set Rome on a new course with Christianity at its heart.
We're told that he was the illegitimate son of a Greek barmaid, and his name was Constantine.
In 337 AD, as Emperor Constantine lay dying, his biographer Eusebius tells us he used this time to reflect on the sins it had been his lot to commit during his bloody rise to power.
It's not good. I fear the odds are quite seriously stacked against him.
The odds are always against me.
25 years earlier, Constantine had taken on Emperor Maxentius in a vicious battle at the Milvian Bridge on the outskirts of Rome, the first steps to unify the broken empire.
Maxentius had 150,000 men. How many did we have, Quintus?
Less than 40,000.
I remember taking my sword from a man's chest and chopping the top of another man's head off. Now I wonder what God let him down in his moment of need.
His devastating victory at the Milvian Bridge meant he became the sole ruler of the western half of the empire. The grand prize, Rome, was his. This magnificent arch in the heart of Rome celebrates his victory against Maxentius, but it also hints at a surprising new influence guiding Constantine to victory at Milvian Bridge.
You've got Constantine defeating the barbarians and giving handouts to the masses and being crowned by the goddess of victory, as well as a few bespoke images like Maxentius's men drowning in the Tiber. But then, up there at the top, there's a cryptic, potentially game-changing inscription. Constantine, inspired by the divinity, delivered the state from the tyrant.
This mention of divinity hints at an event that later Christian authors were eager to commemorate, and that quickly became a significant feature of Constantine's life story. That, on the eve of battle with Maxentius, the emperor was confronted with a luminous vision in the sky. Christ then came to him in a dream, declaring, "With this sign you shall conquer." Constantine shared what he'd seen with his troops. Some said that sign was a kind of cross,
made out of the 2 Greek letters, chi, rho, which are the first 2 letters of the name Christ. Some sources tell us that Constantine ordered his soldiers to paint this sign on their shields, and emblazoned thus, the vision's prophecy was fulfilled, and Constantine could claim a victory thanks to Christ.
Alexander Evers is an expert in early Roman Christianity.
In this period, Christianity is very much on the fringes of society. It's an odd element within the traditional Roman world, where those traditional values of strength and courage are very, very important, and all of a sudden you get a group that comes in and preaches to the humble and meek and promises them paradise.
So it's really interesting then that Constantine seems to be attracted to this fledgling faith.
It's almost as if Constantine thinks, heck, let's give this a go and see what happens. After his conversion, his troops will follow him gradually over time. He begins to build churches everywhere. Christians are allowed to practice their faith in the open.
But he does still keep his options open, doesn't he?
He cannot just cut all the ties with the old traditional Roman religion. He doesn't want to. That would have been political suicide. And perhaps as there's little voice in the back of his mind saying, you never know.
I think Constantine's interest in Christianity was genuine, and he soon fed Christian ideas into the ethos of the empire. The first steps in a revolutionary new direction for Rome. He abolished crucifixion and outlawed gladiator fights. Social justice was now on his imperial agenda. But while these Christian ideals were coming into play in some quarters of the empire, there was trouble and turmoil at its heart. By 314 AD, the Roman world was now consolidated into two halves, East and West. The Western Empire was unified under Constantine. The East had been brought together by an emperor called Licinius. But Constantine's ambition couldn't allow for a rival, so he'd need a pretext to go to war with another Roman co-ruler. According to the historian Zosimus, it was Licinius who provided it. Rather than attack on the battlefield, Licinius attempted a regime change by stealth. And one night in 316 AD, he sent his cousin to Rome with orders to assassinate Constantine and his eldest son, Crispus. But Constantine had word of the plot and was ready. They fought for 8 years, Constantine pushing deep into Licinius's territory in the east. The decisive battle came in the year 324 AD. After pinning his new Christian colours to the mast, Constantine launched a final massive assault on Licinius, destroying his forces. With his victory, the broken pieces of the empire had finally reunited under Constantine's sole rule.
Everyone else, out.
The commitment Constantine made on his deathbed was an act that would catalyse the rebirth of the Roman Empire.
I'm running out of time. I can feel it.
Constantine rose from his deathbed on the outskirts of Nicomedia to be baptised. This final act would send a message to all citizens of Rome. Constantine, who'd given the empire a new capital, now gave it a new kind of life. In the words of Eusebius, Constantine was gifted with the divine seal of baptism.
The time has come for me to have the blessing of the seal, which confers immortality. I shall from this time prescribe to myself such a course of life as befits his service.
After baptism, you're purified of your sins, but just as importantly, you've committed not to sin again. Many early Christians left this act until the very end of their lives. Constantine, who'd done so much that his religion could regard as sinful, was washed of his sins just in time.
Constantine has lived very well. Salvation is yours, Emperor.
Constantine died hours after his baptism, sealing his greatest legacy. Inspired by Constantine's example, at his death, an estimated 40% of the population were Christian, and all but one of his successors were baptized in the faith. By 380 AD, Christianity was declared the official religion of the Roman Empire, an empire that would endure for another 1,000 years.